All right, welcome to day 8. Homework, you got page 40 and 41. Note the problem set is due tomorrow. Problem set 11, which is right on Delta Math. We're going to work with partitioning segments again today. And if you could pause the video, take some time to do the warm-up. Then once you hit play, a screen will pop up for you to input your answer to the warm-up. So go ahead and pause the video now. All right, we want 1/3 of the way from A. If you're not given a grid, you can still just sketch your own little picture to get a visual. On the Regents with these, sometimes they don't give you a grid. Now the advantage of the Regents, they do give you a scrap sheet of graph paper. So just getting a little visual I think is nice. So we want 1/3 of the way from A. So we're going to start with A. As we go from -6 to 12 for the X values, we're going to be moving right 18. As we go from 5 to -7 for the Y values, we're going to be going down 12. So we'll do 18 times that 1/3 and 12 times that 1/3. 1/3 times 18 will give us 6. 1/3 times 12 will give us 4. So our X value of A started at -6. If we're going right, we are adding. So we're adding 6, so we get 0 for our X value. Our Y value of A was 5. If we're going down with our Y's, we're subtracting. So -4, and that gives us 1. So the point 0, 1 is our point that if I had drawn in the line, and again, this was a rough sketch, so it's not as exact as when we're on the grid, but that point would be 1/3 of the way from A. Going over to your homework, we got A and B plotted. We want 1/4 of the way closer to A than B. So essentially 1/4 from A. So starting from A and going to B, 3 to 19, you're going right 16. -5 to -1, you're going up 4. So the -1, it's kind of covered by the numbers, but the -1 is right there. So you multiply those each by 1/4, so we're really going to move right 4 and up 1. So we're moving from A, so start with A's X value of 3. When you move right, that's in the positive direction. So add 4, that gives us an X value of 7. From -5, we're going up 1. Up you add, so if you add 1, we get -4. So 7, -4. Here's 7, -1, -2, -3, -4, and it does appear to check out. Next one, we want 3/4 of the way from A. So it's the same movements, we're just multiplying by 3/4. So we had 12 and 3. Right, you're adding to the X value, so 3 plus 12 is 15. Y going up, you're adding to the Y value, -5 plus 3, so you have 15, -2. So the next one might have been a tricky one. So you want 5/8 of the way along AB, but you want to be closer to B. Okay, this was using the same points. So just a rough sketch. So there's A, there's B. So if you're 5/8 of the way and closer to B, you're like right here. So really you're either 5/8 from A or you're 3/8 from B. So there's two ways that you could think about it, so I showed both ways here. Over on the left is the 5/8 from A. Just like in A and B, you would moving right 16 up 4, multiply by the 5/8, add to the 3, add to the -5 to get 13, -2.5. But if you thought of it as 3/8 from B, well now when you go from B to A, oops, I actually drew this wrong, because in our picture, the line looked like that. So there we go. There's A and B. So if you're going from B to A, you're going left and then down. So you went left 16 and down 4. From B, it would be 3/8, so you'd have 6 and 1.5. If you go left, you're subtracting from the x value of B, so 19 minus 6 gives you 13. If you're going down, you're subtracting from the y value, so -1 minus 1.5 gives you -2.5. You didn't have to do both those, you just had to do one or the other. There was two options of how you could handle it. So today is another day with partitioning segments. It's a real popular question on the Regents. That's why we spend 2 days with it. So we're given 2 points. We don't have a graph, so it's helpful to just sketch your own graph so you can get a visual. So we'll take a couple minutes to do that. We got -8, -5. So that's our point P. And then we've got 1, -2 is point S. So we want 1/4 of the distance from P to S. So we're going to do 1/4 from P. Well, to get from P to S, we're moving right and we're moving up. If you go -8 to 1, that's right 9. And if you go -5 to -2, that's up 3. So we're going to do 9 times 1/4, and we'll do 3 times 1/4. In our calculators, 9 times 1/4 will give us 2.25 when we put it in decimal form. Now, initially, when you do 9 times 1/4 in the calculator, it probably gives you 9/4, which is equivalent, but that can be sometimes more difficult to then write what the new point's going to be when we add in this case or subtract in other cases. To get it as a decimal, go up and highlight the 9/4, okay, by scrolling up, hit enter to bring it down, and then do control enter. Don't just automatically do control enter, sometimes that'll give you the wrong value. If you want to switch to a decimal, scroll up, highlight your answer, hit enter to bring it down in the calculator, and then do control enter to get it in decimal form. 3 times 1/4 will give us 3/4. If you highlight it, bring it down, and do control enter, that'll give us 0.75. So we were doing it from A. So A started with -8. If we're going right, we're adding. So -8 plus 2.25. Put that in the calculator, you get -5.75. Our y value, or sorry, I said A. P is what I meant. So from P, we started with -5. We're going up, so we're adding. When we add those, we get -4.25. Let's look at our line and see if it's reasonable. -5.75 is about there. -4.25 is about there, so it does seem reasonable. Again, we freehand drew that. We didn't have a grid, so it could sometimes be slightly off, but it should be about where it is. So using the same points, we want to find that is 1/4 of the distance from S to P. So now we're still doing a fourth, but we're going to start from S. So if we're starting from S, our movements are reversed. We're going left 9, and we're going down 3. And just so we don't have to keep scrolling up, I'm going to write down here that S was 1, -2. So we're doing 1/4 still. So it's going to end up being the same values as last time. So we're going to have left 2.25. And down 0.75. We were starting from S, so we started with 1. Our x value is going left, so left you subtract. And when we subtract those, we get -1.25 for the x value of our point. Our y value started at -2 for S. We're going down, so we're going to subtract 0.75, and this will give us -2.75. We can check on the graph to see if that's reasonable. So negative 1.25, negative 2.75. Negative 1.25 is about here. And that does correspond to about negative 2.75. So that does seem reasonable. Now, the other way that these questions could be asked could be with ratios. We saw a little bit of that in the previous lesson. But if you have a ratio of 1 to 3, that means if you're starting from this one, it's really 1 part out of 4 total parts. If you started from the back side, it would be 3 parts out of 4 total parts. So on this line, it would be about here. Okay, if we had 1/4 of the way from the one side or 3/4 of the way from the other. So if you're given a ratio, it's the first number out of how many total. So in this one, if you started from the left end, we would say our point is 2/5 of the way. And if you started from the right, it would be 3/5 of the way, because it's 2 parts out of 5 parts total, or 3 parts out of 5 parts total. All right, moving to the next page, we've got a grid here. So let's take a minute to plot our points and use your straight edge to connect them. So when you have a directed segment, that means we're going to be moving in the order that the points are given. So directed from 210 to 12.5, it means we should start from the 210. We've got the ratio of 2 to 3. So that means from where we're starting, we're going to move 2 parts out of 5 total parts. So we're really going to do 2/5. Once you identify that 2/5 and the fact that we're starting from 210, then it's just very similar to what we've been doing the past couple days, or the past day or so. So with our point, from 2 to 12, you're moving right 10. And from 10 to 5, you're moving down 5. Well, we want to do 2/5 of each of those. So we'll multiply them each by 2/5. When we multiply those, we end up getting 4 for this one and 2 for this one. We are starting from 210, so our x value is 2. When you go right, you're adding. So 2 plus 4 gives us 6. We're going down 2, so when we go down, the y value we're subtracting. Our y was 10, subtracting 2, so we get 8. And check and see if 6/8 is on your line, and it is in fact, so that checks out. So same problem, but we're going to do 3/7 now. Just as a reminder, our original point was 210. And 3/7 means we're doing 3 parts out of 10 total parts. So we're going to do the same movements that we just did above. We've got right 10, we've got down 5. So we're going to have 10 times 3/10 and down 5 times 3/10. 10 times 3/10 means we'll move right 3. And this will give us in the calculator originally 3/2. Remember, scroll up and highlight it. Hit enter. Once you see it down below, hit Control Enter, and that'll switch it to a decimal. So we're doing down 1.5. Again, our original point was 210. When we move right, we add. So we have 2 plus 3 to give us 5. We started with 10, we're moving down 1.5. When you move down, you subtract. 10 minus 1.5 gives us 8.5. Just check, see if that's reasonable based on our line. If we look at 5, 8.5, that would be right here, so that does seem reasonable. So this next one, we're still going to work with that same original 0.210, but now we're doing one part out of 3 total parts, because it's a 1-to-2 ratio. This is going to be the most challenging one we've done so far. We're still moving right 10 down 5. We'll multiply those each by a third. So if we multiply this, we'll get 10 thirds. Or if you scroll up, bring it down and hit Control Enter, as a decimal, you're going to get 3.3 repeating. We'll take it as a decimal for now, but we'll put it as a mixed number when it comes time to plot it. 5 times 1/3, you'll initially get 5 thirds, but if you scroll up, hit Enter to bring it down and do Control Enter, that'll give you 1.6 repeating. So we had started from 2, so we've got to add on the 3.3 repeating. That's going to give us 5.3 repeating. Well, a couple common decimals to know. If you have 0.3 repeating, that's really a 1/3. If you have 0.6 repeating, that's really 2/3. So this means we're really going to have 5 and 1/3 for our x value. In the next one, we are going down, so we were starting with the 10. We're subtracting 1.6 repeating, and that's going to give us 8.3 repeating. Well, again, 0.3 is 1/3, so that's really 8 and 1/3. So that's definitely our most challenging one we've seen so far in terms of the addition and subtraction. Let's see if that point is reasonable. 5 1/3 would be about here. If we go up to our line, 8 1/3 seems like it's reasonable as well. All right, one last one for this video. We're given P and Q. So we got 10, 10. So that's P. Q is 0, 4. And we want to find R, so that P to R is 7 parts out of 10 total parts, because R to Q is 3. Doing it as a fraction like that is the same as doing it that way. So if we start at P, we should be 7/10 of the way. While I'm thinking of it, let's go ahead and connect those, because we'll want it to just be able to check our answer. So again, P to R had the 7, so that's why we're starting at P, and we're doing 7 parts out of 10 total parts. So from P, we've got to move left. 10 to 0 is moving left 10. And then we've got to move down to get to Q. 10 to 4 is moving down 6. So we'll do 10 times 7/10, and 6 times 7/10. 10 times 7/10 is just going to give us 7. 6 times 7/10 will give us 21/5. Let's scroll up, hit Enter to bring it down, do Control Enter, and that'll give us 4.2. So remember, we were starting at P, so we're going to have 10. We're moving left, so we're subtracting the 7, and that's going to give us 3. We were starting at P, so we had 10. We're going down, so we're subtracting, and that would give us 5. And that would give us 5.8. So here's 3. 5.8 is about there, so that seems reasonable. 3 comma 5.8. So on your homework, you will see one challenge question, and in that question, it will give you one of the endpoints, and then it will give you the point we're trying to find. So we won't know the movements originally. You should be able to figure out if it's right or left and up or down, but we don't know how much. So in that challenge question, just call this movement X, call this movement Y, and then see if you can solve for X and Y to help you find those points. So if you have trouble with that one, don't worry about it. We'll go over it tomorrow, but give it a try because it's a challenge one. Try and push yourself and see if you can get it. Have a great rest of your day.